Greetings, everybody. We have a very good session planned for today. So, give me a minute. Here it is, the basic mechanics of sign subdivisions. So we got to the third chapter of Phaladipika. We finished the chapter on the planets. And so today we're going to cover the first four statements. And the topic of the third chapter is all the Amshas, or the divisions of a sign. So let me get something that I need to read. Okay, you ready? The first text is Kshetra Tribhaga Navabhaga Dashamsha Hora Trimshamsha Saptalava Shashtilava Kalangsha Te Dwadashamsha Sahita Dasha Varga Sangya Vargothamo Nija Nije Pavane Navamsha. I think you recognize many of the words from there, right? Many of these words are standard astrological terms. Kshetra, Tribhaga, Navabhaga, Dashamsha, Hora, Trimshamsha, Saptalava, Shashtilava, Kalangsha, Dwadashamsha, Te Dwadashamsha Sahita, Dasha Varga Sangya, Vargothamo, Nija Nije, Bhavane, Navamsha. Alright, so basically, this is a definition of something called Varga. Now, let's clarify a misconception right off the bat. The misconception is that the word Varga means division. The word Varga means the opposite of division. The word Varga means collection. The word Amsha means division or part. Lava is a cut or a division. Bhaga means a part. So there's three words that mean cutting something. Amsha, lava, or bhaga. The word Varga doesn't mean dividing something. It means collecting something, unifying things together. So this text is going to define something called Dasha Varga, which means a collection of 10. The Varga is a collection of the Amshas, a collection of the parts. What we do with Zodiac is that we divide them and then collect the divisions. So let's say, for example, if somebody throws on the table in front of you a pile of fruit. So the first thing you would do is, let's say you want to separate the cherries from the grapes. So you separate the cherries from the grapes and then you collect. That's your Amshas. You're pulling the things apart, and then you collect all the cherries into one basket. That's the Varga for cherries. And you collect all the grapes into another basket. That's the Varga for grapes. That's the difference between the Varga and the Amsha. The Varga is the basket, and the Amsha is the part. The parts that are contained in the basket are the Amsha. So here in this text, he's saying, Dasha Varga Sangya. What's known as Dasha Varga is the collection of these Amshas. What Amshas? Kshetra, Tribhaga, Navabhaga, Dashamsha, Hora, Trimshamsha, Saptalava, Shashtilava, Kalangsha, Te Dwadashamsha. Kshetra means the main place. So Kshetra is the main sign. The whole 30 degrees of the sign is called the Kshetra, the field, the main place where stuff is going to happen. So that's the first division, the main sign. Then why is it still called a division? Because it's the division of the whole zodiac. It's the 12th of the zodiac. Kshetra Tribhaga. Now if you divide the Kshetra into three Bhaga parts, then that's a second class of the division. The Dasha Varga is a collection of the Kshetra and also the Tribhaga and 8 other things. So let me actually just quickly show you. Kshetra, Tribhaga, 3 parts. Navabhaga, 9 parts. Dashamsha, tenths Amsha really means like a fraction. So the exact translation for Varga is part and Amsha is fraction. So tenths. Hora is the hour. I'll explain what that means in a second. Trimshamsha is a 30th. Trimsha means 30. Saptalava means 7 cuts, 7 slices. Shashtilava means 60 slices. Kalangsha means 16 sixteenths. Dwadashamsha is 12ths. Te Sahita, all these guys together, these 10 Amshas together are called Dasha Varga. So let me explain that to you now with Tribhagi. If you put Bhangi, it means a little different. Bhangi means to curve. So if somebody has a very nice posture, then they're called Tribhangi. But that's slightly different than Tribhagi. All right. Let me show you this because it's much easier to show you. So let me show you the divisions, okay? We can see this on the screen right now. Yes. Yes. So here is the first division. This one's called Kshetra. It's a 30-degree arc. It's what you call a zodiac sign. It's 30 degrees of the whole 360 sky. It's a 12th of the sky. Okay? Now, the next one is called the Hora. Why is it called Hora? Hora actually means hour. It's Greek. This is also just weird. A lot of these terms are Greek. You're going to hear a couple of more Greek terms. How do you know that they're Greek? Because they don't have Sanskrit etymology. They're Greek etymology. They don't have a Sanskrit dhatu or root word. So a lot of people who kind of are involved in Vedic astrology say that one of the unique things about Vedic astrology are these subdivisions, these Amshas, Navamshas, etc. But that's incorrect. The Amshas and the subdivisions of a sign are universally classic. Any form of, and globally any form of classical astrology will utilize these Amshas. But the difference is that in India, classical astrology is preserved up to the modern usage. Whereas in outside of India, the practice of astrology changed very, very, very radically as it was persecuted. And so therefore wasn't really transmitted very intactly, and also it fell out of favor, so it couldn't be officially supported, or you wouldn't be able to earn a living from it. So anyway, the use of the subdivisions is not something that's unique to India or Vedic astrology. It's universal throughout all classical astrology, Hellenistic, Greek, all that kind of astrology, Babylonian astrology, Egyptian astrology. And hence you're going to find a lot of these divisions are named with Greek names. For example, this one that's on the screen now, the Hora. Hora is a Greek word. It means hour. The whole concept of an hour is a Greek thing. An hour is 15 degrees of ascendant. Hence you have 24 hours in a day. 15 times 24 is 360. So they call this division the hour division because it will pass the eastern horizon once every hour. So what it actually is 15 degrees. It's half of a sign. So that's what's called the second division. Then there's the Tribhaga, usually called Drekkana, which is another Greek term. Dekan. The actual Greek pronunciation is Dekan, I think. So this is, see, when you say dividing a sign into thirds, now on the screen you can see what we're talking about. You take 3 equal portions, so it would be 10-degree portions. Then there's a weird one. This next one that comes up is actually the Trimshamsha. Trimsha means 30. So with this division, we divide the sign into 30 portions, but how come there's only 5 portions on the screen? So 30 portions would mean what each degree is considered to be separate. Each degree in the sign is considered to be separate. So how come there's only 5 divisions? And if you look carefully, it's not a mistake. You can see they're not equal size. The first 2 at the bottom are equal size, and then there's one that's much bigger, one that's a little bit bigger, and then another one that's kind of small. That will be explained in a second. I think the second or third verse, that'll get explained. So this mystery of why this is called the 30th division but has 5 divisions, that'll be explained in a sec. This is exactly used also in Hellenistic astrology as well. In exact same definition. The next division up is the 7th. And this is what it would look like. You just split a sign into 7 divisions. It's called Saptalava or Subdivisions. Again, these are equal. There's different rules for the different divisions. Then this is the very famous one, the 9. Splitting a sign into 9. Looks like this. You get, now each one is 3 1/3. Each section of each 9th of a sign is 3 1/3 degrees. Then there's a division into 10 parts. Each section is 3 degrees. And then there's a 12. Looks like this. And then there's a 16. Now if you count this, how many are on the screen? 1, 2, 3, 30, 7, 9, 10, 12, 16. And I didn't put down on here the 60, right? Because this would be too many lines. My computer would fry. And my brain would fry drawing them all. So there's also the 60. That's 10, right? Using these 10 is called Dasha Varga. Collecting these 10 together in one usage package is called Dasha Varga. You understand? Any questions? So I don't like my here, I'll just give you guys one warning, okay? I don't like my text chat to be too distracting. Not for myself, because I don't even bother to look at it, but for the people, I want to look at the text chat. So I'll give you this last chance to police yourself. Otherwise, I'll block you from it. And it's not because I hate you or anything. It's just because I don't want my text chat to be distracting, frankly. Okay. Anybody have any question about this? Is this clear? Where's the concept of each Amsha covering up? Just ask me questions about what I have given you so far, not about stuff I haven't given you. But Bardo asks, where's the concept of each Amsha covering a particular area of life coming from? It's ubiquitous. That's the purpose of it. Thanks, Irene. All right, so let's move on. If there are any questions, I'll catch them. Hi, Heidi. Now, there's another statement in here. The 4th line was Vargothama nija nije bhavane Navamsha. This is a little bit out of place, but let's explain it. It's like explained a little bit too early. He says, if the Navamsha is nija nija, nija nija means the same as what it comes from, then nija nija bhavane, nija nije bhavane, if it's the same as the house's sign, then it's called Vargothama. So it's just a simple concept. And he's introducing this concept that the best thing to have is synergy or sameness between the subdivisions sign or ruler and the main division sign or ruler. So for example, if you're in Aries sign and you're in a Scorpio subdivision, that's nice because they both belong to Mars. Or if you're in the Mars segment of some subdivision, then that's good. If you're in Aries, that's called Vargothama, the best. So the concept that is introduced here is, first of all, that these divisions will be ruled or or will reflect other signs or be ruled by different planets, and then to have confluence or sameness between what the division is associated with and what the main sign is associated with will be positive. And hence, as a result of this, you can get you get a great deal of difference between 1 degree Aries and 2 degrees Aries and 3 degrees Aries and 4 in any sign. Dietrich has an interesting question. How are the numbers of divisions derived? Why these numbers? This is a question that I would like to answer one day. But at the present, I don't have an answer for it. But I believe it's some mathematical thing. I believe you may have to reduce everything to seconds of arc or something, and then it would make sense. I don't know. I don't know why these numbers. Some of the numbers have obvious importance, like 3 and 9 and 12, but others don't. So I can't really give you a definite answer. When I do, believe me, I'll make a video about it. All right, now the next statement. So in the next statement, he says, Dashamsa Shashyamsa Kalang Shahinaste Sapta Vargas. Okay. Then he says, Cha Visaptamsha Sadvarga Sangyas Tvata. And then finally he says, Rashi Bhavatulyam Navamsha Palam Hikechit. So here it is in English. He said, if you take this pack of Dasha Varga, if you take this pack of 10 subdivisions, but you take away 3. You take away the 10th Dashamsa, the 60th Shashyamsa, and the 16th Kalamsha. Then you're left with 7. And that's called Saptavarga. It's another scheme of which subdivisions are important. The complete scheme is 10. It may be used for certain techniques. Somebody may say, for this technique, use the Dashavarga. Then somebody else may, for a different technique, somebody may say, consider the Saptavarga. And for another technique, they may say Shadvarga. So here he's just defining what they are. So if you have all 10, 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 10, 12, 16, 30, and 60, that's the Dashavarga. But if you take 3 of those away, it's the 7 Varga, the collection of 7, 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 12, and 30. And then if again you take away the 7th, then it's a collection of 6, 1, 2, 3, 9, 12, 30. Okay? Then the final statement that he said, so just one more Sanskrit so you can hear it. Dashamsa, Shashyamsa, Kalangsa, Hinaste. Saptavargas. That's the 7 collection if you take away those 3. Cha Visaptamsha, if you take away the 7th Amsha, then that's called Shadvarga, the collection of 6. Then he says, Rashi Bhavatulyam Navamsha Palam Hikechit. Some people say that the 9th division is as important as the main signs and houses. All right. So now he's covered one topic fully, really. He's defined 3 collections of Amshas, 10, 7, and 6. He's told you what are the Amshas that are used in the collection of 10, what are the Amshas used in the collection of 7, what are the Amshas used in the collection of 6. He brought up a concept that the synergy between the sign that's in the Amsha and the main sign is something that's desired, by bringing up the topic of Vargothama. And now he brings up a new subject. How important or influential is each division? So he's introducing a new topic at this point, and the way he introduces it is by saying some people say that the Navamsha is equally important as the Rashi, the main sign. Some people say, but most people don't say. So Navamsha is the most important. What is to be known from that statement is that Navamsha is the most important, the most significant Amsha is Navamsha. This is why basically in most usage, many astrologers, they only use the Navamsha. They don't use the rest of the Amshas. You don't even really need to. But one major thing that you'll do with all of these Amshas is figure out the planet's actual dignity. And you have dignity that will change from degree to degree. So you can have Venus in Pisces, and so she seems to be exalted, but she may be in 3 or 4 debilitation Amshas. Or you can have Sun in Libra, but it may be in 3 or 4 of its own sign, in Amshas. So one of the most important applications of using the Dash Varga is to figure out the actual dignity of the planet. And in doing so, you don't consider each Varga to be equally important. So for example, if you have a planet is exalted in the main sign, but it's debilitated in the Navamsha, how will you figure out the overall dignity? So if you say exalted equals 100 and debilitation equals 0, then you can average it and say, well, 100 plus 0 is 100, divided by 2 is 50, so this planet is 50% dignified. That's how you do it, if every Varga is equally weighted. But now Mantreshwar is bringing up the topic that not every Varga is equally weighted. So the way that he brings it up is by saying, some say that the Navamsha has equal weight as the Rashi. But now he's going to say, however, use this scheme. Kshetreshu purna muditam palam anya vargeshu vardham. That's a hard one to read. Kshetreshu purna muditam palam anya vargesh vardham kala dashamsa shashti laveshu padam. Bala kumara tarunau. That's a different topic. So let's just cover this. Kshetreshu purnam muditam palam anya vargeshu ardham kala dasha shashtila padam. So he says, in the main sign, you get the weight is full, purna. And then in the other Vargas, it's ardha, half. But in kala, dasha, and shashti, which is 16th division, 10th division, and 60th division, it's only pada, which is quarter. Okay? So they're not equally weighty. So the way that he would suggest to do it is, if you have a planet that's exalted in the main sign but debilitated in the Navamsha, then the main sign has a weight of 2 and the Navamsha has a weight of 1. The Amsha is half of the main. So 100 times 2 is 200, plus 0 is still 200, divided by 3, because this is the sum total of your weights, it's something like 70. So see, it makes a big difference. If without weighting, you think that the planet's dignity is 50%, but with weighting, you think that it's 70%. So not only the Navamsha, but every Amsha has a weight. And the basic weighting scheme is the Rashi is worth 2 times the Amsha. But some Amshas are even less significant. 16, 10, and 60 are only worth 4. Now, just so that you're aware, I've seen it defined different. I've seen the weighting defined differently in other texts. So different authors may have differing opinions about what the weighting should be. Any questions? Right. So Jordan, I thought D60 was super important. So in Parashara Hora Shastra, they say that the 60th one is super important, equal to the Rosh. Different people have different ideas. This is definitely not a questionable translation or anything. This is very clear. So this is definitely Mantreshwar's idea. Jordan, so Vic, does an exalted planet on its exalted degree have the best arrangement of dignities? No. This is a bit different. Really, honestly, exalted degree is used to calculate the planet's strength more than the dignity. And it's a very simple thing. The closer the planet is to the exalted degree, not even within the same sign, just out of a 180 degree arc, the closer it is, the stronger it is. So if you're the moon and your exaltation degree is 3 degrees Taurus, if you're at 1 degrees Aries, then you're getting more strength than if you're at something in Sagittarius, because you've come in closer to your exaltation degree. All right. And then there's also approach to exaltation. I've heard people, I have never considered this myself, but I've heard people say that the approach to exaltation increases the planet's strength, and the separation from exaltation point decreases the planet's strength. I have not tried to apply that technique, but I've heard about it. All right. Now he introduces another topic, which is interesting that he puts this next topic in here. He says, Bala Kumara Tarunau Pravaya Mrtas Shad Bhaga Kramad Yuji Viparyayam Ityavashta. Before I get this topic, let me answer Encrypt. Encrypt says, so the Amsha is very important because it would change the Varga charts. No, the Amsha is irrelevant. The Amsha is irrelevant unless you're using a sidereal zodiac, but still the Amsha is irrelevant. It's only relevant to defining 0 Aries, but nothing else would change. Once you define 0 Aries, then the relation between the Amsha and the Rashi is integral. It's not separable or alterable by any circumstance. Yes, Jordan, that's exactly the point. I would say that some degrees give exceptional results because of the accumulated dignities throughout the Vargas. That's exactly the point. And we won't be able to cover it today, and we may not even be able to cover it next week, but coming up in this chapter, the author is going to give specific statements about this. If you're in two good Amshas, it's considered to be such and such a title. 3 is this, 4 is this, 5 is this. You may have heard like Parijat Amsha, stuff like that. Gopuramsha. Okay, so now this next topic that he says, Bala, you recognize any of these words? Bala, Kumara, Taruna, Pravaya, and Mrita, Shad. These 6 states, which is infancy, childhood, youth, aged, and dying. Let's just use these words: infant, child, youth, aged, and dying. The 5, I'm sorry. Infant, child, youth, aged, and dying. Shadbhaga, 6 degrees each. 6 degrees each, kramat, from the start. Okay? So this is not... No, Alf, I showed you what the Navamsha is. It's not your 9th house turning your ascendant. This is interesting. These are not subdivisions of a sign, but it's another thing that happens with dividing the sign into different sections. Is this 5 sections, which are equally 6 degrees each, which give a planet a state. The word is Avastha, which means a state or a condition. And it gives us the state, which is symbolized by being a certain age. So the first 6 degrees is signified of being an infant, and then the next 6 after that is a child. Then the middle 6 of the sign is the prime time, the youth, the youthful adulthood. And then the 6 degrees after that is old age, and then the 6 degrees after that is incapacitated old age, where you're dying. So this way, you can take a sign and divide it into 6 degree segments equally and age the planet according to how far along it's gone. But Yuji Viparyayam, if it's in an even sign, which means 1, 3, if it's in an odd sign, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, or 11, the male signs, then just go straight. Start from the start. So the first 6 degrees of a male sign is infancy, and the last 6 degrees is old age. But when you're in an even sign, you flip it. So the first 6 degrees of a female sign is old age, and the last 6 degrees of a female sign is infancy. So you get a big 60-degree segment where you go from infancy to old age, and then old age back to infancy, and then the next 60-degree segment, infancy to old age to infancy. Right? Infant, child, youth, age, dying. These 5 states proceed from the border of every sign in 6-degree segments, forward in odd signs, reverse in even. Okay. Let me now show you the next bit. The next bit is where it gets complex. Now he's going to tell you, see, still on the screen we have just these blank divisions of a sign, right? Let me check. Yeah, here they are. Now we need to fill these in. What are they? What's the difference between this one and that one? So first he's going to explain how to do the Hora. It's going to take a bit to get all of these things defined. We won't be able to cover all of it today, but I think we'll cover 5 of them today, and next week we'll do more. So here he's going to explain how to identify which type of Hora you're in. The Hora is the 2 divisions, the one that's here. Let me point at it, get my mirror brain working. This one and this one, this one and this one. So what type of division is that? He's going to explain how to do that now. Chetrasyardham hi Hora. So now he actually clarifies that the Hora is actually a half of a Chetra. The second subdivision is a half of a sign, so 15 degrees. And he says, Ayuji Ravi Shuddhamvam Radhi Shuddhamshva Same Vyastamitat. So you got the sun and the moon. These are not signs. Not all of the divisions are going to be equated to signs. Many of them are going to be equated to planets, or the rulers of signs. So he says, in the Hora, the first Hora is the sun's, and the second Hora is the moon's. This is why you have 24 hours. In the ancients, in the old way of doing hours, you have 24 hours, and 12 of them are always nighttime, and 12 of them are always daytime. So there's actually in the Zodiac 12 Horas that belong to the sun, and 12 Horas that belong to the moon. So in this picture, wait, I actually have this worked out. So let's do this for Aries now, okay? To be specific for Aries. The second division would look like this. The first of them, the sign starts at the bottom. See the arrow out on the outside? It starts at the bottom and moves up to the top. The first Hora belongs to the sun, the second Hora belongs to the moon. But he says, if it's an even sign, in other words, if it's a female sign, then reverse the order. So the male signs start with the sun, and the female signs start with the moon. And interesting, how will you figure out the dignity of a planet that's not in a sign? You do it by correlating the gender. The gender of the planet should go with the gender of the Hora. So these Horas are basically male-female. The male signs start with the male Hora and end with the female Hora. The female signs start with the female Hora and go to the male Hora. So male planets like to be in the male Hora, and female planets like to be in the female Hora. Furthermore, within the sign itself. So for example, if you have the sun in Aries in the sun's Hora, it's a male planet and a male sign in a male Hora. It gets very good dignity in the Hora. That's off topic. Jordan has an interesting thing. He's saying, my intellect is making me think that maybe there aren't houses in the Vargas. You'll see how the Amshas will be collected into their sub-Varga. There'll be a Navamsha Varga, a collection of Navamshas. And each point that's in the Navamsha will be placed in that collection, and one of the points is the ascendant. And therefore, since one of the points is the ascendant, then the Vargas structure themselves around the ascendant. And they do have a house. All right, so this is how the Hora is calculated. Next he says the Drekkana, which they have pronounced differently. Here this is Drekkana, some call it Drekkana, some call it Drekkana. So he says Drekkane Shastri Bhagais. So he says these three divisions, those are called Drekkana. And he says the rulers of these Drekkans are Tanu Sutta Shupapa, which means the first is Tanu, fifth is Sutta, and ninth is Shubha. So the first, fifth, and ninth from the main sign. The rulers of the first, fifth, and ninth from the main sign are the rulers of the three Drekkans in order. So for example, for Aries, I'll show you. For Aries, the first is Aries, and the ruler is Mars. So the first Drakon in Aries belongs to Mars. The fifth from Aries is Leo, the ruler is the Sun. So the second Drakon in Aries belongs to the Sun. And the ninth from Aries is Sagittarius, belongs to Jupiter. So the third Drakon in Aries belongs to Jupiter. So this is how you figure out the rulers of the Drakons. Some people want to say it will be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, and not the ruler of the planet. Maybe you can do it that way. But it seems to me that the original concept here is that they're not signs, like the Hora, but they're just zones that are ruled by planets. And so even though a planet at 15 degrees Aries is not influenced by the sun, it's not in Leo, but at 15 degrees Aries it's in the sun's Drakon. So it actually is influenced by the sun. Alright, this is how the Drakon is calculated. Now he says Dwadashamsha, which some historians say was the first subdivision. At least I think it may be the first one that they have records of, however they decide on their version of history. But the Babylonians were using the 12 subdivisions, very old. And this is actually the simplest one to understand. Dwadashamsas to Lagnat, it's a very simple definition. He says the 12th of the sign are tied to the main sign. Lagna means anchored to. The 12th of the sign begin from the main sign. Yeah, Jordan says it seems to reflect age, but it's not. It's just the first, fifth, and ninth. In a different sign, it won't be Mars, Sun, and Jupiter. It won't be in that order. This is just for Aries. So the 12th division, which is very simple, it looks like this. It just starts from the main sign. So the first 12th in Aries is Aries. And then it just goes in order. So the second 12th of Aries is Taurus. The third 12th of Aries is Gemini, etc. Now you might think, wow, I really want to have a planet at like 1 degree Aries. But the problem of that is you become borderline. And the border is called the Sandhi, or the Anta, or the Gandanta. And it's difficult in its own right to be there. So however, an ideal position would be to be in the Leo, to have a fiery or male planet in the Leo Dwadashamsha of Aries. It's also going to put it in the sun's Hora, and it's going to put it in the sun's Drakon, and it's in Aries, so that's very good for like malefics and, well, maybe not malefics, Saturn, but very good for Mars or Sun, or any planet that would thrive by having a lot of masculine environment. So this is the simple how the 12 divisions work. This is, however, makes the 12 divisions kind of a little weird in that they're not going to be sequential through the whole zodiac. In other words, when you go and do Taurus, then the first Dwadashamsha is going to be Taurus. So the last Dwadashamsha of Aries is Pisces, but the first Dwadashamsha of Taurus isn't the next sign, isn't Aries, it's not sequential, it's Taurus. So you're just going to skip signs at the border. Next, he says degrees of a sign. Okay, now he's going to explain what's up with this 30th division. It's called 30th division, yet it's got 5 divisions, and they're not even equal. Another equal 5 divisions is to have this infancy, childhood, youth, age, and death. But this unequal 5 divisions, which is sometimes called baumes, or bums, which is an approximation of the Greek term for it, which is boundary, or their English derivation from the Greek term is bounds. Here he's calling it Trimshamsha. Why is it called 30 divisions, Trimsha, when there's only 5? He explains it here. Bhomar Kidya Gyas Shukra Shishu Jasamalava Hyojabe Yujmabhe Tadvyastam Trimshamsa Natha. So here's what it means. The degrees of a sign, which are the 30th divisions of it, those degrees are allotted to Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus. In that order, but the order is reversed in female signs. So in male signs it starts with Mars, and female signs it starts with Venus. And the amount of degrees, the amount of the Amsha, so this is the most unique Amsha really. It's divided into 30 parts, but the 30 parts are given to planets sequentially. So Mars gets 5 of those parts in a row, and then Saturn gets another 5 of those parts in a row, and then Jupiter gets 8 of those parts in a row, then Mercury gets 7 of those parts in a row, and then Venus gets 5 in a row, and then in a female sign you reverse it. So to show you this for Aries, see, the first 5 degrees belong to Mars, the next 5 degrees belong to Saturn, then a big 8 degrees in the middle belong to Jupiter, then 7 to Mercury, and then the last 5 to Venus. Bardo, he has not mentioned that here. And there's many ways to say male, but basically you said Purush. Exactly, Jonathan. There's not really a Varga that's set aside for past lives, are you? All right, now let's see what else he defines. Oh, and now he's going to define Navamsha, and then this will be the end. And the way that he defines the Navamsha is Kriya, Makara, Tula, Karkat, Adya, Navamsha. And what that means is 9th divisions begin from the same sign in every cardinal sign. So he actually names a sign in Kriya, Aries, in Makara, Capricorn, in Tula, Libra, in Karkat, in Cancer, in Aries, Capricorn, Libra, and Cancer, the Navamsha starts from the same sign. So for Aries, it would look like this. And this is going to make it this makes it sequential. I'll show you also how this looks for Taurus, so that you can also see for a female sign, okay? So you see it's just sequential. The first Navamsha in Aries is Aries, the second one is Taurus, the third is Gemini. So that should make sense. Now, so which one is Vargothama? Well, those first 3 and a third degrees down there at the bottom of Aries would technically be the Vargothama. We don't know why they're unequal. Or I don't know why they're unequal. However, the usage of it, actually, I don't know why they're unequal, but I have some kind of an intuition about it, which is the usage of this chart is for sickness, illness, misfortunes. So it's this chart is not symmetrical. These divisions are not symmetrical. Even the concept of them being called bounds is that it shows the limitation or the boundary on a thing. That's my feeling about why this one is ugly. Really, this is ugly. It's not symmetrical at all. Jonathan, if my sun is in the second decan of Virgo, so it's influenced by Saturn, does this imply a negative influence because Saturn and Sun are enemies? Yes. What if they are neutrals in a chart? Then it's not as bad. And what if the Sun is debilitated? Then it's worse. What if the Sun is exalted? Then it's better, etc. All right, let me show you how these same divisions work in Taurus so that you see. So the difference between Taurus and Aries is that Taurus is a female sign. So this is, by showing you the difference between Aries and Taurus, one of the main things I'm showing you is how some of the things are different in male and female, which is only the second division and the 30th division, and that's why they're yellow. So you see how here in a female sign, the Hora, the number 2 ring, starts with the moon, starts with the female Hora, and then it goes to the sun. Whereas in Aries, it starts with the sun and then goes to the moon. So really, you got these 30-degree segments of sun Hora, moon Hora, sun Hora, moon Hora. And then the Drekkana, or the third division, for Taurus, the first, fifth, and ninth is Taurus. Here we go, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, right? So the rulers of them are Venus, Mercury, and Saturn, and hence the first decan of Taurus belongs to Venus, the second one belongs to Taurus. So the first decan of any sign will always be the ruler of that sign. The second decan will always be the ruler of the fifth from the sign, and the third decan will always be the ruler of the ninth from the sign. Now 30th, you can see this is flipped. I don't know if you remember, but you could rewind if you're watching a replay or something. In a male sign, there's 5, 5, 8, 7, 5. In a female sign, it's 5, 7, 8, 5, 5. And in the female sign, Venus is the first Trimshamsha, but in a male sign, Mars is the first Trimshamsha. In the female sign, Mars will be last. You reverse the order. So this is what the Trimshamsha looks like in a female sign such as Taurus. Now, go look at the 12th for a second. 12 is interesting. 12, he says to Lagna, it always starts from the same as the sign. So that means the first 12th of Taurus is Taurus. So we skip Aries. The previous D12 is Pisces. The last D12 from Aries is Pisces. But then we're going to skip Aries and start with Taurus and wind up with Aries at the end. So you're always going to have all 12 signs because there's 12 divisions. But the whole D12 is not sequential, which makes it different from most of the other ones that have signs. Anyway, maybe that makes sense, maybe not. The Navamsha is also interesting, right? It's easy when you're in Aries. It starts with Aries. But in Taurus, it doesn't start with Taurus because it continues going sequentially until you get to the next cardinal sign. So it starts with the 10th sign because you get 9 of them used up in Aries, and then when you get to the second sign, the 10th one begins. So here's how it's different than the 12th. So, and also you won't always have all 12, you'll never have all 12 signs, and in the Navamsha you only have 9 of the 12 signs, and the 3 that get omitted are always interesting. You're always going to have 3, the same element of the sign is always going to begin, be right in the middle, and be at the end. So Taurus is an earth sign. You have an earth beginning, Capricorn. The earth is in the middle, Taurus. And in the fixed signs, the Vargothama is in the middle. In the cardinal signs, the Vargothama is at the beginning. And in the dual signs, the Vargothama is at the end. All right, so let me show you a little bit more about the Navamsha. Bardo, if we don't know the exact time of birth, how can we interpret Amshas? Depends on how much you don't know. If you don't know by 5 or 10 minutes, then you might want to leave your house. Just remember that the only thing that moves fast is the ascendant. Only the ascendant moves fast. Everything else is fine. Even Shashtiamsa of the moon, if you're uncertain by a whole hour of the birth time, you could still pretty much rely on the Shashtiamsa of even the moon. But the ascendant will change very rapidly. In the Shashtiamsa, the ascendant changes quicker than a minute. So I do believe. So the more uncertain you are the birth time, the less you should rely on the house configurations in the Varga charts. All right, let me explain more about what he said about the Navamsha, and then we'll call it a day. So here's a wheel with only the Navamsha, a complete zodiac wheel with only the Navamsha, and the main sign, and the nakshatras are on there too, because this is the graphic that I use for my reports. And as you can see, this is a sidereal nakshatras, not the zodiac signs. So you don't have Ashwini at the beginning of Aries. All right, but ignore nakshatras for now. Just look at the Navamshas. Remember, he said that the Navamshas, they begin with the same sign as the main sign at every cardinal sign. So these lines here show you the two. These actually are the solstice equinox divisions. This just gave me a flashback to explaining the Surya Siddhanta. It's the line the diameter drawn between the two solstices and the two equinoxes identifies the hub of the zodiac upon which the zodiac revolves. So here, these two lines, which are the diameters from the solstices and equinoxes, they define the border of the cardinal signs. At these points, you'll find that the Navamsha is always the same as the main sign. So I'll circle those for you now. See, at the first point of Aries, the Navamsha is Aries. At the first part of Cancer, the Navamsha is Cancer. The first part of Libra, the Navamsha is Libra. At the first part of Capricorn, the Navamsha is Capricorn. And if you zoom in or whatever, you can see what I'm talking about, Navamsha being sequential. So like if you look at the end of Aries, you'll see that it was Sagittarius and the beginning of Taurus is Capricorn. It's just the next sign. And it goes sequentially throughout the whole zodiac. And Navamsha just keeps going sequentially. So that's what he's saying. And this is why. And you can see, take for example, the dual signs. Like I said, the Vargothama is always at the end of a dual sign. Pisces is at the end. Sagittarius is at the end. Virgo is at the end. Gemini is at the end. And you can also see every air sign has the air signs at the beginning, middle, and end. Every earth sign has the earth Navamshas at the beginning, middle, and end. So that's what he means. And then I just want to point out one other thing to you. Because the Navamshas are going sequentially, they're not restarting per sign, then they're going to synchronize sign segments. So every one of these, every border between anything is called an anta, or an ending. But when you have a gandanta, it means the ending of a section. And these 4 lines, actually no, it would be 3 lines. You make like a peace sign or a modified peace sign. I'll just show you actually. This one right here, that one right there, and this one right here. These 3 borders, look carefully at them. What's the Navamsha that are at these particular borders? The Navamsha is always Pisces. So this marks the end of this is the second thing about Navamsha, which is interesting. The first thing is that the Navamsha always synchronizes with the main sign when it hits a cardinal sign. And the second thing, which is interesting, is the Navamsha always ends at the end of a sign when it's at the end of the elemental sequence. So when it's the elemental sequence is fire, earth, air, water, and then that elemental sequence is repeated 2 more times to get the complete zodiac. Whenever you get to the end of an elemental sequence, you also get to the end of the Navamsha zodiac. The Navamsha zodiac synchronizes with the end of a sign at that part, and that I've drawn arrows there, and therefore we call those antas, or those borders, the gandantas, the big borders. Okay. Any other questions? Good discussion today, right? Next week, he's going to explain how to use Subdivisions, the 60th division. And then he's going to define how to... He's going to explain how to define the remaining Amshas. And then he's going to talk about how to use them primarily by determining the gender, or the dignity or the auspiciousness of a planet. And he's going to give you a system of, is it 10 auspicious, 9 auspicious, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0. Arya, if you watch, you'll see. Yeah, Heidi, thank you. I was on the fence about doing the visuals for this because it's very tedious to draw all those lines. And I was surprised actually of the computer, which is so powerful, like processor and everything. It didn't like having all these lines on the screen. It was freaking out. No, I don't. I don't want to answer again your calculus questions because you're just getting distracted from. Have you really understood the algebra? If you really understand the algebra, and you can do this, if you can shut off the video and go and draw a circle, and draw the Hora, draw the Drekkana, draw the D7, draw the bounds, draw all the divisions that I taught you here, and mark them out for what they belong to, then you're ready to talk about how you use this stuff. But if not, you haven't really learned the algebra yet, so why go ahead and talk about trigonometry? Thank you, Ayo. Encrypt, I see what you're saying. If you get the 5 age divisions of a sign, would there be any change of analyzing Rahu and Ketu? Because you're thinking they go backwards all the time. No, it's a property of the sign, not a property of the planet. All right, see you in 2 days for the Bhagavatam stream. Thank you very much for being here.